It's no secret that the Battlefield franchise fell off pretty hard over the last few years, especially after the disastrous state of Battlefield 2042 at launch, and also the insane amount of time it took to be updated to an acceptable state. But DICE has been hard at work under the new leadership on a brand new game, and following several leaks and inside reports, we finally have a good idea of what Battlefield 6 could be about and what it's gonna look like. And truthfully, if you're a Battlefield fan like myself, you might not like it. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to VGL. In today's video, we're going to be going over everything that's been revealed about Battlefield 6 over the last week or so, go through the official reports as well as some leaks regarding the current build of the game, as well as some extremely controversial design concepts that have made the community up in arms. So let me know down in the comment section below what you think about Battlefield 6, and also don't forget, drop a like on the video, subscribe with your notifications turned on, and now let's deep dive into everything we know about Battlefield 6. So in case you didn't know, there's been a couple playtests for Battlefield 6 over the last month or so, some bigger than others, which has obviously meant a ton of footage has leaked online about what the multiplayer is going to look like in motion. And a new playtest opened up just a few days ago and gave us a good look at what the most recent version of the game, and the main thing that everybody's talking about is regarding the gameplay and a certain feature that's likely going to cause a ton of frustration. I'm sure you've seen all the gameplay of the destruction mechanics that looks absolutely amazing, and the game itself has extremely high quality graphics, which is to be expected from a DICE game. A lot of people have hoped that under the leadership of Vince Zampella, the design of the franchise will go back to the classic class-based system of Battlefield 1 through Battlefield 4. Battlefield 2042 did away with a lot of the core Battlefield mechanics, and a lot of the fans speculated that this was done as an attempt to make the game more like Call of Duty and appeal to more of the casual players, although this ended up just doing the opposite and drove a lot of people away. With the next Battlefield game, Battlefield 6 seemingly is going to be the return to form. You would think that the team would essentially be copying and pasting the mechanics from Battlefield 4, but apparently not. According to an official post from DICE leading up to the most recent playtest, the developers have confirmed that Battlefield 6 will not have a class-specific weapons, even though this post confirmed that the specialist system of Battlefield 2042 is being deleted, and that Battlefield 6 will be a class-based system, just like the other games in the franchise were. The class you picked will apparently only dictate the gadgets and traits and attachment packages that you'll have access to. When it comes to the weaponry, every gun will be available on every class, which is the exact opposite of what the longtime Battlefield fans were hoping for. Naturally, the Battlefield Reddit was not happy about this because of the lack of distinct classes was one of the biggest problems that people had with Battlefield 2042. A massive part of Battlefield's appeal during the rise of popularity was the fact that you had to pick the best class for every situation, and there were tons of great options for weaponry within each class, which gave every class a distinct feel and playstyle. Being able to put every gun on every class just means that the big part of Battlefield's identity is going to be absent from Battlefield 6, because if one gun is overpowered and too versatile, that just means that every player on the battlefield will be using the exact same setup and same gun, and also whether or not the weapon actually fits the role of their class. In the past, there has been a few overpowered guns in Battlefield games, but they weren't as dominant as what they could have been in games like COD. You might not have wanted to use the class that was restricted because it didn't fit your playstyle. So needless to say, I'm pretty concerned about this decision from DICE, and the Battlefield community also seems to be very worried about it. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but EA and DICE are actually pushing up the release date of Battlefield 6, and that it's now scheduled to launch at some point in early 2026. Now, while we don't have an actual official release date yet, EA's recent investors call did confirm that they're planning on dropping Battlefield 6 sometime during the current fiscal year, which means it has to be released by April 2026. I was a little surprised to learn this because this means that the game is less than 1 year out from launch, and we still haven't gotten a comprehensive gameplay trailer or even an official title drop, but I guess that's something for us to look forward to, especially with some of the big summer game showcases coming up. I think it is pretty inevitable that the game will either show up at the Summer's Game Fest or at EA's own summer showcase, assuming that they choose to do one this year, although that does seem very unlikely at this point. But I am expected to see Battlefield 6 at the Summer Game Fest, and it will be very likely that we'll be getting a release date confirmation. But absolutely, Battlefield 6 is going to be coming out before April of next year. That is no matter what. So we can definitely confirm that Battlefield is less than a year out, and we'll have to see if it's actually going to be worth the wait. I'm definitely for sure a little worried about this game in terms of the technical performance, because on one hand, it's very unlikely that DICE and EA are going to launch this game before it's technically ready. But then on the other hand, we have to remember that Battlefield 2042 was hyped like crazy by EA themselves, and that was leading up to the release. Now remember, because in early 2021, when EA was telling us that Battlefield 2042 2042 was way ahead of schedule, and then later that year the game came out and was barely any content and a metric ton of bugs and glitches. I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though Battlefield 2042 came out broken, and I think that EA and DICE would have learned from their lesson, they've definitely been careless about this kind of stuff in the past, so I wouldn't put them past them to think that this game is totally awesome and ready for the community's praise, only for the game to launch and realize that they missed the mark. I'm definitely still very confident in the leadership of Vince Impella, but with the lack of the class-specific guns, I'm really worried that they're gonna misunderstand what people want for the franchise. But then again, on another note, something that's definitely returning in Battlefield 6 is the use of real-world factions in multiplayer, which just should be a nice little bit of authenticity. Some modern military games have been trying to avoid the controversy by not using real-world countries in multiplayer games anymore, but from some of the early footage that we've seen, that doesn't seem to be the case for Battlefield 6. While one of the playable factions in multiplayer is a fictional PMC called Pax Armada, another one of the playable factions is going to be NATO, and it's also pretty likely that the other factions are going to be playable in the final build. It is still a little unclear about how many factions are going to be in the game, but since DICE probably wants to avoid the controversy by not being too on the nose about certain factions facing off with each other, but then again, classic Battlefield games never seem to care about pissing people off or having real-world adversaries like the US, NATO, and Russia, as well as China, all blowing each other up. That is in the Battlefield franchise or the video game. I just wanted to make sure to state that in the video. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but NATO is absolutely going to be one of the playable factions in multiplayer, which suggests that real-world factions are going to be the central to the experience in Battlefield 6. And I'm perfectly happy with that because that was one of the things that made games like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 so immersive. Now, as for what kind of hardware you're going to need to run this game with, it's no secret that Battlefield is a historically rather demanding game to run. The upcoming game will be the first true next-gen Battlefield game, meaning that it will not be released on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. And as for the PC system requirements, we actually have some intel on that. Apparently, the minimum requirements for the playtest include the RTX 2060 or the AMD Radeon RX 5600. You'll need 16 gigs of RAM and at least an Intel i5 8400 or a Ryzen 5 2600. You'll need 30 gigs of storage for the game, and the recommended specs, however, suggest that the RTX 3060 Ti or the AMD Radeon RX 6700 XT, and that is for your GPU, and then an Intel i7 10700K or an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X as your CPU. So this game is not actually going to be that high spec, but it's also possible that these requirements go up in the full build. The playtest may very well be using a smaller and less demanding build of the game, so don't be surprised if the full game system requirements come out and they're much higher than this. But that's about where we are when it comes to Battlefield 6 and the news regarding some of the specs and when the game is actually going to launch. But expect to see something at the summer's Game Fest, or like if EA has an event this summer, we're probably going to see something about it. Don't forget, the game is set and confirmed to launch in the fiscal year of 2026, which means that it has to come out before April of 2026. So definitely some awesome news on the horizon for Battlefield 6. Let me know, guys, in the comment section below if you're excited for Battlefield 6. Don't forget, if you guys found this video informative, please drop a like in the video, subscribe, and this has been Zach with VGL. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll catch you in the next one.